Channing Tindall is often forgotten when you talk about Georgia inside linebackers in this NFL draft process, mainly because he played at Georgia for so long in a variety of roles, but really didn't have that starring spot like a Nakobe Dean or even a Quay Walker. But that changed a little bit in this past season as that trio became so special for Georgia on its way to a national championship. Hey, I'm Dayne Young. That's Brent and Rollins. We are with UGAsports.com. Brent also works with Pro Football Focus. We're doing this NFL draft preview series. So if you're a Georgia fan, you get to recap some of your favorite Bulldogs that helped them get to a national championship and see them off as they go to the NFL as we recap their careers. If you're an NFL fan and you stumbled upon this, maybe you're watching this after the draft and your team drafted, in this case, Channing Tindall, or maybe you're trying to learn more on the front end. That's what we're here to do, is just to tell you more about these guys at Georgia that we've covered really close for a few years. And make sure that you know what your team could be getting. So, Brent, with Channing Tindall, I think the makings of a football player have been there since the day he walked into Georgia. But he's really had to work and grind through special teams, especially to get to the role that he did his senior season, one that Georgia very much needed on a defense that was star-studded.
Yes, and I think actually Kirby said it best when they talked about him at the pro day. When they were talking, he was talking about that he was so proud of the kids during the interview process. And one of the guys asked Channing about not being a starter. And he's like, "Hey, look, I was a 4-year starter on special teams.
Yep.
So don't forget that I was a 4-year starter, and he was always one of the best, top 2 or 3 players, because I do a lot of special teams grading for PFS. So he was always one of the 2 or 3 best players on special teams for Georgia. So it's one of those things where I think when we think about draft. The adjectives that all the draft guys use, you're going to hear the word explosive when Channing Tindall's name comes into comment. They're going to show video clips of him and his 42, inch vertical at the combine. They're going to show the speed. They're going to show the first 2 plays that we're about to show, because it was something that we saw it in spurts. Those first 3 years, I think it's on the ticker, 212 snaps. But this last year, 474 snaps. So you finally got to see it on a consistent basis. And I think you're going to see why you didn't see it initially, especially, by the way, given the fact that, you had guys like Monty Rice and others that, got drafted and played ahead of him. But some of the things that it's always one of those, well, you see an athlete like that and you see him make plays in space. Hey, why is that guy not on the field more? I think you're going to see some of those reasons in some of the tape that we have.
Yeah, 6'2", 230, very prototypical of an inside linebacker, and use the word explosive. And you said fast, but man, when I watch him, the first thing I think of is speed, because you can make the argument he's the fastest inside linebacker that Georgia had when he was going in the right direction.
Well, he ran the fastest 40.
But I'm even saying when you watch the game on film and you saw him in pursuit, straight line, you're like, whoo. I don't know how anybody found a way to keep him off the field. Like you said, there are reasons for that. And look, he played through COVID. He came in. He had some before all the COVID season and everything, he had high expectations. And I thought eventually he overperformed what his expectations were for this final season. That's what we're going to get into with the film here. But, overall, when you see this grade at the bottom, 85.4 for a guy that didn't really start. Season. When a guy that didn't start until this past season, I think you kind of understand why he is rising on draft boards more than a 6th or 7th round flyer, which is, the highest he would have been a year prior.
Yeah. And that's, I remember around this time last year, wrote an article right after the draft last year when Georgia had 9 players picked. And I wrote an article about 15 guys I thought could be picked. He was, I can't remember if I listed him, but in terms of just, if you look at him and when we did our series previewing some of their highest returning players, it's like, hey, this guy at minimum is a special teams dynamo for a decade in the NFL and will exist on a team for a decade playing special teams at minimum. But this year you got to see the actual on-field production.
Here he is. This is a pretty famous sequence if you watch Georgia football or if you watch the national championship. Circled here, number 41 on your screen is Channing Tindall. And pay attention to him, but then also pay attention to the reaction from Nakobe Dean, who will be drafted in the first round, higher than Tindall for sure. But they did play well together. You'll kind of see the dynamic at play. And just, Brent, when you saw this live, I'm sure you had to have a similar reaction to what Nakobe did.
I did, and when I saw it live, here was my thought. It kind of got blurred, so we'll play it again. Here was my thought. This is a theme because I was actually at the SEC championship game, and this happened on multiple occasions, like at least twice, and maybe more. I can't
real
remember
fast.
exactly.
I'll get more of your reaction. So, because it gets cut off the screen a little bit from the angle that we have here. So, Tindall, wrong step into his right, and Nakobe Dean runs into him at first, recovers, and then makes a pretty miraculous play here in coverage on this side. And then as the play is ending, Nakobe Dean approaches Channing Tindall
in his grill
and says, "Can't do that, bro. Cannot be having that."
No, he is absolutely in his grill, and it's his eyes, and that's what you're going to see consistently with the tape with him. His eyes get him into trouble, and with this play, he absolutely just got himself into trouble. Now, the beautiful part of it, is the next play, and the pat on the butt from your leader after that. But this is where you see just the sort of high level explosiveness. It kind of stopped there. So run it through again, where it's just like, okay, sit. And then when he pushes puts the pedal to the metal and puts the gas, puts it in gear and goes, he has more juice than just about as much as any linebacker in this draft. I mean, that's just instantly there going, making plays and being an explosive athlete.
And some of that is learned from the special teams play that we talk about, where it's run down the field as hard as you can and try to make a tackle, sometimes in space. But, I mean, you cannot teach this level of pursuit.
No, and just the traits. And when we talked about guys like Trayvon Walker, we talked about guys like Quay Walker. The NFL teams want traits. They want that elite athleticism that they can then say, hey, we'll coach you up. We'll put you in a position that, you can be succeed, but we need the things that we can't teach and we can't coach. And that's elite level speed and explosion and athleticism that he has.
Here he is, lined up this time to the right side of Nakobe Dean.
If you're going to play linebacker in the league, can you take on blocks? And right here, he takes on the block, dips inside a little bit. As you see, right there, dips, and then comes right back out because Jordan Davis is mounting in the middle. UGA is, by the way, on this play, completely resetting the line of scrimmage. The black line is the line of scrimmage, and you see all red past the black line. And there's a reason, all these guys are going to get drafted so highly. But this is one from Tindall where it's like, hey, okay, can you play in the box? And there are certain instances, and you're going to see some of them, especially the last two plays, where he struggles in the box. And that's a lot of the reason why you saw him only on third downs or in pass rushing situations in his first 3 seasons in Athens.
I will say when he struggled in the box, it was rarely from lack of effort.
No, never. It never is that. He is, he's the high motor guy. He's definitely the high motor guy.
Here he is. This is the same game.
So he ran a 4.47 at the combine, and smartly did not run at the pro day. Didn't need to. I'm good with the 4.47 at 6'2", 235. So, his, by the way, his relative athletic score was 9.6. So, he's on the very high end of that range, and a lot of it is because of the elite level speed and pursuit ability that he has.
And I mean, tell me, is this a vision thing, or is this maybe a bit lucky sometimes? But it's hard to get through the line of scrimmage the way he did and come around the backside and catch them before they get back to where the line of scrimmage was. I'm saying he had to avoid some bodies here, and he never got touched.
No, and there's a little bit of, like you said, a little bit of luck, but also just I think the other part, like you said, playing hard, that's just constant effort right there. Now, granted, the speed allows him to get there, but there's no bit of throttling down at any point. That is fifth gear the entirety of the play.
You can kind of look at this and realize how Georgia's scout team probably had to hate when he was on the field.
Oh, I 100% bet that is the case. 100% bet that, I would agree with that.
Here's the college football playoff semifinal against Michigan.
And this is where, hey, you got to play in coverage. You got to sit back and you just got to track. And then once you see, I think the quarterback leaves the pocket here, go be fast, go be an athlete. All right, boom, comes up on that guy, quarterback leaves the pocket, and then go be fast and tackle the QB.
Yeah,
like he's playing a bunch of different guys here and just being a super athlete.
Pretty complex play that Michigan's trying a few different options. Obviously, the tunnel screen is what he has to
tunnel screen.
He has to react to that first.
Trying to get to the outside.
Covers it, and the reaction time to go make this tackle, and well, Jalen Carter too,
and had some help from the big dog 88.
Yeah,
and this
maybe we could start doing Jalen Carter previews for next draft already. That guy.
Yes, and Nakobe on the blitz here, great job along the edge, little stutter step, forcing pressure. These are great plays, but again, it's ability to play in space and do things. Now, this is one where we get to talk about a math equation.
Mm-hmm.
Force equals mass times acceleration, because he's the second guy through and running back, get out of my way.
You know, this is one that he doesn't get credit for a sack for, and he shouldn't because he didn't get the sack. But like something needs to happen in a stat book for this.
Like force, mass times acceleration equals ouch, like as opposed to force, because that's
I'm just going to draw a ton of arrows here, just as many arrows as humanly possible. Because
and what's interesting about it is Dean was oftentimes the second guy, and I think we talked about this with the Quay video. Nakobe was often the second guy in this cross dog game that they always played, did with the linebackers. But here, Tindall was the second guy, and Nakobe just makes a great play, and it's probably one we could put on his highlight tape because he beats the center, still bends at the edge, and makes the sack. But what Tindall did in the second part of that is just, all right, sorry, running back, get out of the way.
Annihilate the running back. I'm going to pause it this time as the running back is parallel.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's – yeah. Do they call it? So I wonder if in the defensive room, do they call that a pancake? Like, do they get something for, hey, I pancaked the back on the blitz, coach. What do I get some sort of helmet sticker or something or dog bone? They used to do.
Whichever team drafts Nakobe, I kind of think maybe they should just take a flyer on Channing Tindall just because they're kind of that dynamic duo at this point.
That's a phenomenal point that you make. And I've seen this. And I've seen it in some mocks. I saw a mock draft by actually someone who I very much admire, a guy that I used to work with at PFF that now works for Pro Football Network. And so the Eagles have 3 first-round picks, 15, 16, and then 19. And his 3 first-round picks for the Eagles were Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Nakobe Dean. And when you think about that, like getting 2 of those 3, because you can, by the way, even if it's Quay early in the second, Tindall in the third. Getting 2 of the 3, why not? 100%. If you're an NFL team, why not? Now, these last 2 plays.
Yeah, maybe this is a reason why not.
So we talked about the eyes and the eye discipline here. And when you look at run fit, and this is one where Georgia rarely misses run fits. Rarely do guys run through. It's because if Georgia's running game gives up a big play, it's often because a tackle has been broken or because, the QB's reading somebody or there's an unblocked defender somewhere. But here it's just a bad run fit. And he gets his eyes left, gets hit, and then voids the space because you can see Adam Anderson, 19, they're setting the edge. And it's like, hey, you'd see the right defensive tackle who's interior that gets double teamed. Carter fights to the outside, but it's like, hey, that's where you and Quay do not need to be in the same spot.
Yeah. Like
your helmets and shoulders don't need to be touching each other right there. So again, his eye discipline. The next play is even worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, this one's kind of hard to avoid.
Yeah, and this is one where you think about, okay, this level of speed, this level of explosion, this level of athlete, especially as a pass rusher, by the way. And they even played him and we talked about this a lot once Adam Anderson was not there anymore. They played him on the edge a bunch.
Uh-oh.
But this is and by the way, this isn't even what the interesting part about this is, it's a little bit of an insert there, but it's very late that he's seeing this. And that's just, get eye discipline at the linebacker position. All right, fine. Sometimes you just get faked out.
Yeah, look where his feet are by the time that his head wraps around to see where the ball carrier is. Like completely out of this play. Conversely, look at where Nakobe is attacking from. And I get there's different responsibilities in the play.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason why Scene here and Dean here and frankly Carter here too are all going to be drafted higher than Tindall will be. So if Tindall can get some of this stuff worked out, the sky's the limit for him athletically.
Yeah, and I think that's what an NFL team is going to bank on. Is like, hey, look, in our scheme, we're going to, it's not like Georgia's scheme, and we've heard multitudes in terms of the sort of complexities of Georgia's scheme and how guys don't just come in and play early. And that's one of the reasons that Nakobe came in and played early, because he was just hyper intelligent and field smart and played the game so well upstairs. But he works. If Channing Tindall works on his eye discipline, gets better at it, plays and does things in the league and keeps getting better, he's going to be one of those guys that, in year one, he's excelling on special teams, 100% excelling on special teams, and might even be a Pro Bowl level special team type player. And, it's a third down guy, is put him on the field in any time and situation where you need speed on the field. And then in year two, in year three, he's a starter and he's a high caliber player. And he's a guy who's looking at that second contract like, oh yeah, let's go get paid.
Well, I pause it here because there was a pick your poison element to Georgia's defense in terms of how opposing offenses were trying to attack it. And you mentioned the potential number 2 overall pick in Trayvon Walker. Well, that's Trayvon right here. This is Jordan Davis right here. 2 no doubt first round picks. Tennessee just bullies up on these 2 dudes. Says we got 3 linemen. We're going after these 2 guys. We'll take our chances from there. And you see how that becomes a mess in the middle here. And it's all on Georgia's inside linebackers to assess and manage what's going on here. And so if Channing Tindall makes the right decision, then he's probably going to be kind of in this area, ready to make a tackle around the line of scrimmage.
Well, the beautiful part for him, and at least like here, the QB run game is not really massive part of NFL teams' playbooks. So it's more playing. Allen. Well, other than maybe him and a few others, but he's one where, like I said, he's going to be a decade long. He might have one of the longer careers of as long as the speed and he stays healthy, that still exists just because of the value as a great special teams player.
Where do you think he gets drafted?
I think he's also in that late third round mix, maybe even in the middle of the third round. But he doesn't get past the third round is for me. The only thing is the position. The position is that, and where does a run on other positions kind of go to where maybe teams feel like, all right, I can wait till the 4th round and get a linebacker kind of thing, but not with that speed, not with that level of explosion. He's not. I mean, someone might even take him late in the 2nd round, but I think he's going to end up in the 3rd round.
The Georgia pedigree is not going to hurt either for them to say, look, we know the talent that was on that defense and you started on it your senior year. It doesn't matter that it took you that long to get there. There's a lot of other talented guys behind him. They're going to be NFL guys too. And so that's one thing to realize. My game that I like to end these with, this guy kind of feels like, whether it's based on jersey color or just history of drafting Georgia players, or when you just think, all right, Channing Tindall, what NFL team does he feel like he's a part of? And to me, that's the Seattle Seahawks. Just the ball hawking, go around the field, be willing to make mistakes and give up big plays, special teamer. I think he kind of fits what Pete Carroll tries to build there. Now, how long will Pete Carroll be there for it? I have no idea. But he kind of fits that mentality to me.
By the way, this is getting freaky. Because we did 100%. Those of you that actually listen the whole 19 minutes now, we don't talk about this. This is something I literally write usually 2 teams down. I wrote 2 teams down today for this for him. The Steelers is kind of the obvious one where it's just linebackers who fast and play that way. But the other one I wrote down is a guy because they just they got rid of Bobby Wagner. And like you're going to need some LBs. I wrote the Seattle Seahawks. Like that's two in a row now where we've been linked together. We had the Bengals for Jamari Sawyer. So
We're the two best friends and
I mean,
could have. That's for sure.
By the way, what would be hilarious is if they get drafted. We both said the same, and they get drafted by that team. That would be quite. We could replay that on, clip it on social and do that consistently.
Well, if you like what we're doing, you want to see more of it on social. YouTube's the social. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and to see all the content that we're putting out. Sometimes it's Brandon or Film Don't Lie, typically during the season. Other times it's just, hey, Dayne and Brent are talking about Georgia's guys, either in the NFL draft or top returning players. We're constantly kind of looking at Georgia from multiple different views. He's the data guy. He can do the analysis on what the numbers say. I'm a bit more the video person. Brent coaches more. I do the media thing. It's kind of a good balance. Roddy put us together years ago for UGAsports.com, and it's been one of the best partnerships I've ever had professionally. So, and we went to see Jeff Foxworthy together. So obviously we're like super big family friends at this point.
Yes, very much so.
And I think we're like 10 minutes apart, and we always do this online rather than in person. That's neither here nor there. Thanks for watching what we're doing here on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. We will continue wrapping up Georgia's draft eligible players in these NFL draft previews for Brent